Okay, so here I'm going to go over how to write a unit test in Jest for openlibrary. So, for example, let's take a look at this function here, init clampers. One of the things that you might notice from this is that as I go through this is that testing this function is going to be a little difficult because it's written in a way that makes it a little difficult to unit test. But for now, I'm just going to try to avoid changing this too much and just see how much we can do with Jest. Okay, so to create a test file for this, I've opened up this other test file, searchbar.test.js, just to see where everything is. And so if I look here, it's located in tests, unit, JS, searchbar.test.js. So we can create a new file here, file, and we can call it, following the pattern, read more.test.js. So there we go, we have a blank file. And then we will need to import this function. Thank you, VS Code, that's correct. And it's just complaining about it not being used, fair enough. Okay, so then we will describe. Describe is like a collection of tests. So we'll create a collection of tests for this function. The name doesn't matter, it's just a human readable string, mostly for people than for computers. And then we'll create our first test. So the first thing we can test here is this line, clamper.clientHeight equal to clamper.scrollHeight. So it removes clamp. So test clamp removed if not needed. Okay. So then what we're going to do is we're going to create some dummy HTML. Oh, and look at that, it's already doing most of it for us. So clamper is going to be just a div. We don't even need any contents, but we can do clamper.classlist.add, and then we will add clamp. And then we will init clampers with that input, and then we expect it not to contain the clamp afterwards. So in order to make this happen, we need to set the client width and the client height. But before we do that, let's run the test. So I have my Docker environment up and running here. I'll just show it to you real quick. There we go, everything's running and up to date. And then I will step into the web container, Docker compose exec web bash. That'll just give me a terminal into there. This complaining that strings must use single quotes. There. Okay. Okay, and then now that I'm here, I will run the test. So the way we can run tests is if I go into the package JSON. Oh, actually, let me, 1 second, let me just pause the recording for a moment. Okay, so just enabled some screen recording, so you can see the keyboard shortcuts I'm pressing on the lower left there. Anyways, Control P, so I can go into package.json, and we can see how to run the test here, which is just that'll run all the tests. So a quicker thing we can do is we can do npx jest -- watch, and then we can go here and copy this path. And so then that'll just run that test, which is going to be quite a bit faster. And let's do that. Woohoo! And it actually succeeded. While this is computing coverage, another thing I can show, actually, let's not do that. Okay, so that's just going to show all the coverage of how much of the input code has been covered by unit tests. But now that we have that, so why is that? It's because in, although we are creating the div element here, in Jest, which is using JS DOM, because it's not a real browser, these elements don't actually have a width and height. So the client height and the client and the scroll height are actually 0. So if I go here and do console.log Let's just log these two things. Okay, there we go. And save. So if you were on because I'm using Windows, the watcher doesn't work for me. So I have to go down here and press enter after I make a change. But if you were on a Mac or Linux environment, it should automatically pick up that change. There we go. And if we scroll up, there we go. You see console.log 00, nothing at init clampers at the specific test. Yeah, so that's not what we want. So we need a way to stub those values to make them fake. So then let's go here. Because I don't really remember how it works. So just stub client height. Let's see. There we go. There we go. Perfect. So what we're going to do is, now that we have created the clamper, before we call init clampers, we're going to call jest.spy on, and instead of doing all this, we will just spy on the clamper. And the reason we can't set these directly is because they're getters. So if we try to do that, and let's just, as an example, if we try to do clamper.client height equal to 10, clamper.scroll height equal to 20, and save, and then go down here and press enter to kick this off. We will see it fails. Cannot set property client height of element, which has only a getter. So this isn't a real value like a normal JavaScript value, it's a getter. So then let me undo this and go back to the jest stuff. What this will do is it'll spy on that getter. So when this scroll height is gotten, we will mock the implementation and then we will return, sure, let's make the scroll height 100 and let's do the same thing with the client height. Okay, so if I save that, so now they're both the same, and when I press enter on the tests here, we should see our console line printing 100 and 100. 100 and 100, perfect. And then if we wanted to test the other case, which is, that this is not removed, if the heights are different, so test clamp not removed if needed. So here we're going to set these to be two different things. And then we expect this to be true. Save that, and then press enter down here. Oh, and we have an error. jQuery is not defined. I hit this a little earlier as well. I'm not entirely sure why we need to do this, but I think we do need to import jQuery into this actual JavaScript file. So that's what it is. Thanks. Now let's press enter and run the test again. And boom, both tests pass. Yeah, so that's the rough way of how you would go about creating some JavaScript unit tests and to increase the coverage.